data for so long. They have so much data. Maybe they don't even know what they have or what kind of data that they have. Of course, there are going to be attacks. Of course, there are going to be losses of that data.
And I think, too, when you think about a data breach, could be anything from an insider attack or even an inadvertent insider leak or database misconfiguration or, someone left the good old floppy drive on the subway.
Floppy drive, Pam?
Well, yes.
Yeah,
USB,
you're right.
floppy drive, all kinds of, all the ways that we store data, even, the box of paperwork that was left in the car and the car got stolen. So, it could be anything when we think about what breach regulations are now in terms of disclosure policies and all the new things that we're seeing in the market.
Exactly. Data is pervasive, and this is a tough challenge. But I think there's some things that companies can do to protect themselves and to have a little better hygiene overall, right? That idea of a security fundamental, it all starts with data and how you think about it.
That's exactly why in this episode, we're going to dive deeper into how data protection, including a strategy around encryption, can help you in the face of a security breach. This is the Security Intelligence Podcast, where we discuss cybersecurity, industry analysis, tips, and success stories. I'm Pam Cobb.
And I'm David Moulton. This episode, we spoke with Stephanie Boloris, Research Director for the Security and Risk Team at Forrester Research. Stephanie explained why organizations have no excuse to start implementing a data protection strategy and can benefit from a holistic approach to encryption. Here's our conversation.
So, Stephanie, welcome. Thank you for joining us as a guest. Can you introduce yourself and share a bit about your role?
Sure, and thanks for having me. I'm looking forward to this. So my name is Stephanie Boloris. I'm the Research Director for the Security and Risk Team at Forrester Research. So I manage the team. I set the research agenda. I work with all the analysts who cover everything from enterprise risk management all the way through to cybersecurity.
How important is encryption given today's data breaches and threat landscape?
Yeah, it's become more important than ever. Every year, my team and I, we do an analysis of the largest breaches and privacy abuses of the previous year. And what we always find is that the extent of the breach or the impact of the breach could have drastically been limited if the data in question had been encrypted. And in some cases as well, if your data had been encrypted, you don't necessarily have to report it under certain breach notification requirements, whether it's here in the United States or even under GDPR in the EU. If the data had been encrypted and that there's a limited chance that any kind of customer data had been exposed because there's no way for a cyber criminal to actually monetize or use that data maliciously, then you don't actually have to report it. It also helps to reduce both security and privacy concerns if you're hosting data with a third party, especially if you're maintaining the keys. This way, whether it was a malicious insider at a third party or whether it was, an unfriendly government or a foreign government that wanted to access the data, they actually wouldn't be able to access the data if it was encrypted and you had control of the keys, because otherwise they would have to gain control of the keys from you. Just to give you a sense of the scale of the problem as well, in our annual security survey, we asked 3,000 respondents whether they had suffered a breach in the last 12 months, and more than 68% said yes, and that's just the ones that know that they currently have a breach. For those that don't know have a breach, we actually think that the percentage is even higher than that.
So given all these breaches and, the 68%, which even knowing and suspecting that's underreported, how has user perception of encryption changed over time?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. It hasn't changed. The good news, so according to that same survey that I had referenced, is you'll find that security teams have adopted every form of encryption that's available.